Inaros is finally getting his rework. For the love of God, he's like one of the most requested reworks. If I'm not mistaken, one of them. I'm pretty sure there's other people requesting other reworks for other frames. Hydroid finally got his a couple months ago, and that was a really good rework. But in the dev stream, they did state that it's not going to be on the same level as the Hydroid rework, because his rework just basically swapped out one of his old abilities for something better, and it just made him an utter powerhouse. For the Inaro rework, I'm pretty sure they stated that they're just gonna keep his like his base kit basically, but they're just gonna make it where it's just way more better. It's just like it actually does something. Because right now his kit doesn't do anything. Like the only thing that's like relatively decently good right now is his Scarab Swarm, which really doesn't do much on its own anyways. Because all it really does is nothing. It does nothing. I was reading it right, and like I saw, oh, it's like it's like charged up to transform health into like hardened scarab armor, which I thought that just meant like it just makes them more tanky. But in the description, it really doesn't say that. It doesn't really tell you get like a damage reduction or anything. Like it doesn't do anything besides attack enemies, and it does corrosive. So I guess armor stripping as well. Weird. It's weird. It's weird. He's a really weird Warframe where he's in a state where he's in a limbo state. Literally, he's in such a gray zone of being so bad, but he's not bad. In a way, he's just boring. There we go. Boring as fuck. Because honestly, all he could do is have a very high health pool. Right now, I have 6,000, but with one of the arcanes. Arcane Blessing, get that to 50. You could get it to 8,000. You could definitely get that to way higher by adding more health mods. For the build I'm running for him, nothing too crazy, because honestly, you don't have to build. You only build Inaros for health. Straight up, you only build Inaros for health. And unless you're putting a subsume ability on him, which I don't want to. I want him to be as clean state for the rework, so I could just enjoy that to its fullest. I'm just gonna leave it. I'm not even touch it. I'm just have him in the back burner for the rework. But honestly, you just put health and adaptation, of course, and every other health mod you could think of. And I put rage here. Honestly, you don't need rage. I might fucking replace that with something else. Maybe more health. Maybe some range. I don't know. It's weird because honestly, you could just build him. He's like the cheapest build you could do because all you're building for is for armor and health, and that is really it. And adaptation, and then maybe some other shit. You could put equilibrium on here as well if you're I don't know something. It's weird, but it's not a review on the Naros. It's for what's to come. His rework. What are my predictions and what do I want? Right. So we're gonna start with his passive. Right. His passive is it's sad. It's sad because it is so inconvenient. It's just so bad. Now, they did say they're not gonna really change his core abilities. That means most of everything, like his passive and all the way up to his four, stay the same. So I'm assuming that it's adding things to his abilities and like quality of life updates to these, and maybe a buff to his passive that just makes it where he's just enjoyable to play and not some boring slob that you just have in your back burner of your arsenal, not doing anything, collecting dust. It is terrible. Ignaros is in a sad state right now, but like I said, rework is coming. So predictions. Passive, easy, easiest shit they could ever do in their lives is just buff this passive, bro. All it needs is a damage buff and maybe a quality of life, so you don't have to drag enemies to you. It's annoying because Sevagov's passive is the exact same as this bullshit right here, and it's 10 times better, bro. Sevagov's passive is so good. Dude, because literally it's the same thing. It's like every time you die, you enter a coffin and you fucking kill enemies so you can res yourself. The thing is, with Sevagov, you're using a shadow, and the shadow could do a shit ton of damage. Plus, you get a damage bonus on top of that while you're in the bleed out state. So you just do a shit ton of damage, and it's fucking crazy. You're just fucking crazy. But here, I'm not even gonna demonstrate because it's like if you know Inaros, you know this passive. It is fucking memed upon being one of the worst in this game. There are other worse passives, but this is like one of is at top there, but it was one of the worst. Basically, you just die, when you die, you enter a coffin, and basically what you're supposed to do is to drag enemies and absorb their life force so you can res yourself. But the thing is, on higher level missions, the damage for this, since it's true damage you're not doing any type of like status or anything. You're doing true damage. It doesn't scale. It doesn't scale off of anything. Not power strength, not enemy level, nothing. It doesn't scale. That is the problem with the passive. It is that the damage doesn't scale, and plus is a bit of a nuisance to drag enemies towards you because with at least with Sevagoth, you're moving around with your shadow, so you're moving around, you're going towards the enemy, not hoping that the enemy is close enough so you can fucking drag them towards your fucking lifeless coffin, try to res yourself. It is just sad. It does no damage, and it really doesn't do anything, dude. It doesn't. Once you die with the gnarls, you cannot get back unless you're playing normal star chart. Then yeah, like enemies 50 below, you could definitely kill with this. That's it's just terrible. The easiest shit is just to buff the damage and I guess make it where if any enemies are close to you, you just absorb their life force, or maybe just make it where the drag isn't something like the enemies isn't so bad. It's just terrible. It's just a terrible feeling when you're using it. I just don't like it. It's inconvenience. It's so bad. Now, now bag of sand, which I like to call this. You literally throw a pocket of sand that you have in your pocket. You know what I mean. We have like the little fucking dust in your pocket. Yeah, that's what Inaros has, and he likes to throw that to his enemies. It doesn't do much. I'm assuming because they're taking a look into finishers, so finishers are a bit better and not a nuisance because finishers are kind of buggy here and there. And it's just not it doesn't do anything, right? Because you're not gonna be using this. You don't need to use it. Like sure, it gives you a bit of CC because well, you're stunning enemies, but it's not good. Like I was thinking something they could just put on here is just a 50% armor strip at base. It doesn't scale off of power strength, so you have to dual cast it. But at least it will have a use, and Inaros will have an actual armor strip in his ability. Besides Scarab Swarm. Scarab Swarm is like so bad with armor stripping. I don't know why it even does corrosive damage. It really doesn't feel like it does jack. Maybe it's just me. But if you was to give like an armor strip for his first ability, I'm pretty sure it'd be good because then you just build for a bit of range and then boom, you're able to spam this shit. And any enemies in front of you, since Inaros isn't a AoE nuke frame, right? He's a tank frame. He cannot die, so having something that he's able to stun enemies with and armor strip with, really good because armor stripping is just increased damage overall. So you don't have to really put like any armor strip in his kit because if it's a 50% armor strip, just fucking throw a fucking bag of sand at your enemies 2 times, boom, fully armor stripped, and then boom, you could do a lot of damage. And you could still keep the like leaving them up for opening to finishers, so you can still get that life steal. Increase the life steal to like maybe 40, because 25% is like yeah sure, it's like sure, but it only works if you finish the enemy or hit them with your melee. I don't even think it works with hitting them with their melee. I think it's only finishers, and finishers is already wonky, and it slows down the game just slow enough. Whereas like I really don't want to do finishers. It's like then because if you want to regenerate a lot of HP, why use this where you could use his two? His two sucks. His two sucks. But we get into it a bit. Almost done with the first ability. Straight up giving an armor strip and maybe an increased base range. 15 meters is already good. Honestly, don't even change the range anymore. Just giving an armor strip and maybe this passive, this maybe this like a life steal when you throw the sand. It's already good. Maybe just remove the life steal if you want to balance this. Remove life steal. Keep the stun and finishers, but give it armor stripping as well. Because then we got his stew. Now his stew is weird because this is his only ability that you might use to actually keep yourself alive in like high level missions. Because this makes you immune while you're devouring enemies, and it heals you, and it also summons a friendly sand shadow, which it's just boring. You're literally just sitting there waiting for this enemy to die. It's another issue, the same as his passive, that it scales. It doesn't scale off anything, and it does true damage. It doesn't scale off of anything. It doesn't scale. It doesn't scale off of your power strength. It doesn't fucking do jack. It doesn't scale off at enemy levels. It doesn't do anything besides just heal you. Now this is boring. Just having an ability that just only heals you and makes you immune. Now I was thinking they could make this a buff ability where you're healing yourself, but since you're literally devouring the essence, the life essence of your enemies, you should really go full bar with that. Since he's absorbing the life essence of his enemies, he should take the properties of, the enemy. So on higher level, steel path, you fucking absorb the damage of whatever enemy you're eating, the armor, and then the heals. Because then you're healing, but then you're also buffing yourself. So when you're like done devouring that fucker, boom, it's good. Plus the duration is pretty high. Like I think the duration is at 25 seconds. I think. Pretty sure I could just show 30 seconds at base. That's really fucking good. That's really good. 30 seconds at base is really good. This buff the overall damage that this does. You can't like it kind of sucks. It only affects one enemy. But if it's a buff that makes it where you do more damage and are more tanky, then I feel like it'd be worthwhile using because at the current moment you really don't use Devour since Inaros really doesn't need it. He can't like his health is already fucking high as fuck, and like you could just use any other mods or even arcanes for health regeneration, or even Archon shards as well. Which I have one blue Archon shard. I don't know if you guys saw that earlier. It's just health regeneration. It's just sad. It doesn't do much. Just make it where it buffs you, gives you some certain buff that makes the Naros like stronger, and then boom. Because like, come on, it's cool. It's cool. Like literally devouring, bro. You're literally throwing an enemy to the ground. You're like, nah, come here, boy, and then you're fucking devouring. You're literally eating your enemies alive. That is rad. That is the raddest shit ever. Like what? Like he's the only Warframe I can think of besides Grendel. Grendel also eats his enemies. I love that dude. Fucking love Grendel. But Inaro should be on the same boat as Grendel, where it's like the same power feeling, and you just eating enemies and you're getting stronger. So I feel like the more enemies you eat, the stronger you get. This is make it where Devour is actually worth using because you're eating enemies and the stronger you're getting stronger. Of course, cap it so like you're not infinitely eating enemies and just infinitely getting stronger. So let's make the cap where if you eat like 5, 10 enemies, maybe like 10 is a little bit too much because you're eating one enemy at a time. And we don't know how much they're gonna scale this damage up so you guys like this shit does damage. We don't know how they're gonna do that. We everybody knows that this shit's gonna get a buff in damage one way or another. I just don't want that. I also want like an actual something added on top of that. So like maybe a cap of 5 enemies. Cap of 5 enemies. You eat 5 enemies, and then boom, you're juiced up. You're juiced up. You're ready. You're fucking up the enemies. Boom, set. Right. That's really good. Like the base energy of this shit is 50. Like so, like awesome 50 energy. Fucking good. Nothing else to say about Devour. I just really hope that they actually just don't keep it the same and just buff its damage because I do want it to do something more than just restore your health. It needs to do something more interesting than that for it to be on par with other abilities. Now, Sandstorm. Arguably the worst ability in this kit, right next to Pocket Sand. It's goofy. It's goofy. It's fun. It's fun for one reason. It's fun for one reason that you could just ragdoll enemies. Look at this. You can just ragdoll enemies, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. Plus, as you can see, it moves so slow. Unlike Caliban's Blade spin move, it's a bit faster, but his shit is also pretty terrible. I don't know what's with tornado spin moves and Blade spin moves, but every time they try to do it, it always sucks. Because they did it for Caliban, and everybody knows Caliban is in a shit spot right now, and no one plays fucking Caliban. And if you do, you lying. You're lying if you play Caliban. You're fucking lying. I don't believe you. But it doesn't do anything, and plus it just scatters the enemies. Now, basically, this one just be easy. This one just should just increase the speed. Please increase the speed. This is just terribly slow. And why does the camera zoom in so close? Like I get it. Like my FOV is at max too, which is just weird. But the camera should at least zoom out a bit because you're just so fucking close to the screen when you're spinning like this. It's like really you can't see jack. What the fuck? How are you supposed to see if you can't? Like, it gets agitating. Speed, terrible. Damage, terrible. And it doesn't provide you anything. It doesn't do anything at all. Like if you read this description, it doesn't do anything. Sandstorm literally just become a whirling spiral of sand that sends enemies flying and devours those trapped in quicksand. Yeah, I guess nah. It's just terrible. It doesn't do anything. So the drain is 75, drain per second, blah blah blah, radius damage. It just sucks. It's a speed multiplier. Damage multiplier. Yeah, sadly it doesn't do jack. Doesn't do anything. You wouldn't use it. It's just inconvenience to use. But I don't know. I feel like if they really said they're not gonna change any of his ability, I feel like this is the one ability you want to get rid of and replace with something else. Like the sand tornado is cool, but what can you do to it for it to be good? They already tried. They already tried. They already tried it with Caliban. That fucking failed. So what can they do to buff Sandstorm to make it good? Besides just increasing the damage and increasing the speed, right? What else can it do? Because I can't really think of anything for it to do. Maybe make you immune to damage while you're spinning, right? Because I guess it'd be a really good, I don't know, this immune tool. But you don't need that since you're playing Inaros. Inaros is already tanky. You don't need something that makes you immune for a long period of time. So this needs to do something besides just lift enemies in the air and do a little bit of damage, because it doesn't do anything besides that. It's slow, low damage. It's not fun to use, very inconvenient, blinds you. So this needs. I think this right here needs the biggest change in his kit, right next to his passive. This needs the biggest change. Devour also needs a big change for it to be way more fun to use. But I think this could be just another case where they just make this into a meme ability, where it's just like, yeah, you get fucking a speed boost and you fucking lift enemies into the air, and that's all you do. There's a meme build. There's certain Warframes that have like a one meme ability that nobody uses, but it's at least fun to have. Grendel has this ball form that like nobody really uses, but it's fun to use. It's fun to use Grendel ball. But this has to do something, and I can't really think of anything because I already stated that this will provide armor strip and this will provide a buff, right? Right? This provides armor stripping. This provides you a buff for more damage. This, I guess, movement. I guess movement. I guess this will give you like a make this in a movement ability, like a movement ability, so that the movement speed is faster. Plus, it gives you CC as well. So if you want to, do passive CC while you're in this tornado, I guess that good. I guess this buff the CC that this is able to provide. So Inaros will really have a nutty kit of having armor strip, a buff, and CC. That'd be fucking crazy for him to have all three in this. It could work though. It could work. You could try to have some synergy with this. They could try to make. I guess as another thing they could do is make his powers synergize way more together, because at the moment they're all like isolated. They don't connect with each other. Besides maybe Sandstorm, I think mixing up with devours those in quicksand. Okay, don't know what that means. But just make it more where it synergizes more. His four, I think, is just really easy. I guess just change it to make it. I don't know. He sacrifices his health so he's able to send out flying scarabs to do damage to enemies. I guess just buff it to where it does like a shit ton of more damage, right? That's way more damage. I feel like this really need to change all too much. I guess make it where you could combine these two. I know you could really like activate this already. Just have this already active, drain all your HP. Just get all the goodies. And then you can combine it with your 4. And since, boom, you have like a fucking CC, and then your 4 just does damage while you're in this tornado form. So now you're just moving around with extra speed with your 4 active, and you're just doing a shit ton of damage. You also just deactivate it to, armor strip them, and then activate your 3 again for tornado. But it's just so weird because they really stated that the update, that the Inaros rework is not going to be that strong. Like, it's not strong. It's just not going to be as potent as Hydroids. It's not going to be as influential, I guess, because Hydroid, like I said earlier, Hydroid's rework is one of the best reworks we've seen in this game in a bit. But they did state that it's not gonna be the same level as that. But I'm just hoping that it's make him more fun to play. Because honestly, I think the biggest changes he's need is his first, second, and third. His passive, his fourth just needs a buff for it to do just more. Because on its own, like you could attack the enemy. There we go. Do you attack the enemy? Can you do something? I don't think his four works. I don't think his four works. It's supposed to be doing this passive damage. Is that all it does? Is this doing passive damage like that? Is that all it's doing? Just please buff the damage for that, please. I think that's all it needs, like a buff and damage. So you can just have like a diverse build for Inaros, because I think that's the one thing is lacking is diversity in his gameplay. Since you're adding since I'm thinking like my ideas is just adding so much into his kit, I just want to make it where you could build for specific shit for him. Like if you want to build for his four for like mass AoE damage, max range, and then like for it to do a shit ton of damage, you could do that. This is like hypothetical, hypothetical for his four. But if you want to, if then you could combine it with your three for movement, and then boom, you have like a movement fucking tank that cannot die that does a lot of AoE damage. Or you could build for his fucking first and second ability, which one gives you armor strip, and the other one gives you, you know, other one just gives you fucking a buff when you devour your enemies. Because come on, you're like I said earlier, eating enemies and absorbing their essence. You should just make that into a cool thing, whereas like you're eating the essence, the life force of your enemy. That should make you stronger, right? Right? You're a mummy, right? You're a mummy who's absorbing the life force of your enemy. So like, come on, man, that should buff you. That should give you something other than just the health regen. It's three, movement speed buff, maybe an increase of damage, and something else. Just anything. His three is really hard to think of anything beneficial for it. Honestly, I'm surprised that they really said they're not gonna really change anything of his base kit besides just buffing him to all hell. I don't know why they're calling it a rework since they're not really changing his abilities. They might just change how the abilities work and synergize together. So his three might be the same, but at the same time different, right? So like the old three would just be terrible, but the new one is gonna be just crack, depending on what they do, or just make it a meme ability that's just only for movement. His four, I guess, I guess since you're sacrificing your health, I feel like this should be like a thing of like how much health you sacrifice, the more damage you do. So like it's a risk play reward thing where like the more health you're sacrificing, the more damage you're doing, which is really good because it's like if you're doing steel path, like if you have no health, you're gonna die. But if you play your cards right, you could kill the enemies before they kill you. The more health you're draining, you could just drain all 7,000 of your health, just leave like maybe 300 health, and just hope not to die. Activate your two, devour an enemy, and then boom, you're fucking set, right? Like I feel like that's what they're gonna do. Is just make his abilities where you're using his abilities and not just using him for his health, and actually use him, play as him, and actually use your abilities and synergize all your shit. That's all he needs. I feel like Gnarls needs like synergy, and he doesn't have it. His abilities suck, and they don't combine together well, right? Like I said, his only good ability is his four, and maybe his two for like this the health regeneration, so you just don't die. His passive, of course, definitely easiest buff, easiest thing easiest shit you could think of for the passive. Like I said, I think the armor strip thing for the pocket of sand ability is pretty good because he doesn't really have anything that increases overall damage to your enemies. I know your four, you could build for power, strength, and range to possibly do armor stripping since it does corrosive apparently. Um, just buff the damage for the four. I feel like that's simple. Maybe give it something. Maybe give it something else since you're sacrificing health. Maybe something like maybe a critical chance. Maybe a critical chance bonus. Maybe that's a little too much since I'm already fucking I already want an armor strip and a fucking buff for his first and second. So giving another buff to him on his fourth, I feel like that's a little too much, a little too powerful. I guess just make his four stronger, make it more like just make it more useful. make it more have uses like for you to actually use it. His three, honestly, his three might still be the worst ability in his kit, even in the rework. I doubt they can make the spinny blade shit work because they can't. For some reason, DE cannot figure out how to make spinny blade like moves work. Like I said, they failed with Caliban. They really did. They failed terribly. So I don't know. I don't know what the I'm gonna let Pablo. I'm gonna let him cook, bro. I'm gonna let him cook, bro. I'm gonna let him cook, bro. He said he's got he's. I'm gonna let him cook, bro. Next month we got into next month and we'll see. But other than that, there's nothing else to talk about Inaros, because straight up those were my ideas. His three, does a quick recap. His three, don't really know what to do with that. We'll do with it. I guess speed buff and make it where it doesn't fucking blind you, and maybe zoom it out a bit because you're super zoomed in for some reason. His two, like I said, you're devouring the life essence of your enemies. That should buff you. That should give you some type of buff. Pocket of sand. Um, just keep everything about it, and this armor stripping as well. Maybe remove the life steal that it gives you, or maybe reduce the life steal a bit since it has armor stripping. Or just make armor. Let's make it where there's an augment for armor stripping. If you don't want it to basically make like armor stripping a base of his kit, but you can make it something that you could build towards. So an augment would be really good for the first ability, just for armor stripping. His fourth just needs a damage buff, and maybe something else that makes it worthwhile using. Passive already, just buff the damage. Just please buff the damage and make it just make it feel good to use. Please, just for the love of God. They might do something like Wukong's passive, basically, where when he enters the tomb and when he gets back out of the little coffin, he gets like a buff, depending. He gets like 3 revives. That's like a direct copy of it, but they could do something like that. Like they could do like every time he dies and resurrects himself, he curses the enemies. Because he's a mummy, right? He's a mummy. He's like he has a coffin. Fucking, he has a quest where it takes place in a fucking desert and shit. Like I feel like there should be something every time he dies. There should be a curse that's inflicted on the enemies, right? Some type of debuff to the enemies when they killing Naros, right? That I feel like that works because it fits his theme. So like it's really plus it sounds badass. So every time you die, fucking the enemies will regret killing you because now they have some type of, I don't know, some type of random debuff that they receive every time you die, some type of curse that they like curse of Inaros, like some type of like literally this curse of Inaros, I guess, some type of curse that he'll inflict on the enemies every time he dies, right? Basically, this to keep the same thing where he has to absorb enemies to resurrect himself, but every time he does die, enemies around him should just get weaker, right? I feel like if they don't want to buff the overall damage too much, they're gonna just make it where he just inflicts a curse on the enemies that just make them 10 times weaker, and then boom, and then the curse persists for a bit after you resurrect yourself, right? So maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds after you resurrect yourself, the debuff on the enemies is still there. So that's pretty good. That's a really good idea. Other than that, nothing else. Nothing else. Let me know in the comments um, what ideas you guys might have. You guys might have better ideas than mine. Every time I try to do a whole Warframe rework idea, it's always fucking over the place. um, but please, just hopefully he's fun. His ability synergizes together, and he just bumps up in popularity. Hopefully, this update, his rework, like this makes him like bump him up in popularity. Just hopefully he's fun because his design is cool and his lore is pretty cool. Please, and for the love of God, D, please make the second. Please, please. I really hope that the second ability is what I wanted to be, because you're eating enemies and absorbing their life essence. Come on, dude. Come on. I feel like every ability to absorb life essence, and in my thought right now, of every iteration, it always gives you something like a buff or something, right? It has to. It has to. You just can't have an ability that you're eating the fucking shit out of your enemies, and it all it does is heal you. Like, come on, it should give you something. Like I stated earlier. But other than that, next video is Saren. 100% positive because I've been playing her lately, and she's fun. She's fun as hell. Play goddess. Okay, definitely doing her next. But I can't wait for the Inaros rework. Hopefully, they actually cook with this rework and not something they half bake. Hopefully, it's not a hope to God it's not a half baked rework that they just buff his damage overall and that's it. They don't change how his abilities work or synergize together. This is this like I said, I'm gonna let them cook. I trust their judgment. I'm gonna make another video of his like when the rework comes out. So that's next month. Be ready for that. This video is pretty long. I'm gonna end it now. You guys have a good one.